If you turn on the radio during the holiday season, you will hear Burl Ives. For decades, his warm, grandfatherly voice has narrated classic Christmas specials and delivered ubiquitous hits like A Holly Jolly Christmas. But in the late 1950s, that same man was standing on Hollywood film sets, playing some of the most ruthless, terrifying figures in American cinema. The ultimate voice of wintertime cheer was simultaneously delivering critically acclaimed performances as harsh, dominating patriarchs. This commanding screen presence came from a very specific place. Long before the Christmas specials or the tailored suits, Ives survived the Great Depression as a vagrant wandering the country, and the road left a permanent mark on his voice. In the late 1920s, Ives was a college junior sitting in an English lecture on the epic poem Beowulf. Deciding he was wasting his time, he walked out, slammed the classroom door hard enough to shatter the window, and left to travel the American freight lines. He spent the early 1930s crossing the United States as an itinerant singer. He took odd jobs to survive the severe economic collapse of the Depression, relying on his banjo to earn his next meal. Living as a drifter carried constant legal risks. In Mona, Utah, authorities arrested him for vagrancy and threw him in jail, citing his public performance of Foggy Dew, a traditional English folk song the local police classified as bawdy and inappropriate. Surviving arrests, poverty, and the unforgiving elements of the road gave him a direct view into human struggle. He built a well of authentic storytelling material that no formal acting studio could replicate. He eventually carried those road-tested songs off the streets and into the broadcasting booth, making his way to New York to work for CBS Radio. By 1940, he launched his own program titled The Wayfaring Stranger. Week by week, he introduced a mass audience to traditional, working-class American folk music. During this period, he collaborated closely with the Almanacs, a prominent folk group featuring Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger, rooting himself deeply in the authentic, often controversial folk revival movement of the era. Live radio imposed immense technical constraints. Ives had to capture and hold the attention of millions of listeners across the country, using absolutely nothing but an acoustic instrument and the projection of his own voice. The recording booth acted as his dramatic training ground. He learned exactly how to scale his vocal power to project intense emotion and absolute authority over a silent audience. He carried that practiced vocal command directly onto the Broadway stage in the 1950s. In 1955, he secured the role of Big Daddy Pollitt in Tennessee Williams's hit play Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Audiences who knew him as a gentle folk singer were suddenly confronted with a performer capable of abrasive, heavy-handed intensity. When Hollywood adapted these stories for film, Ives learned to physically command the set. He used his large frame and that booming, radio-trained voice to entirely dominate scenes, standing toe-to-toe with established leading men like Paul Newman. This imposing on-screen authority peaked in 1958 when he took on the role of the ruthless rival patriarch Rufus Hannessy in the epic western The Big Country. His performance earned him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, marking the end of a 30-year journey from the freight lines to the industry's highest honor. The heavy, imposing authority Ives wielded in those award-winning films was drawn straight from the grit he developed riding the boxcars in his 20s. His dramatic acting and his folk singing relied on the exact same skill, delivering an honest, unvarnished story to an audience. Very few performers maintain such a deeply divided legacy. He possessed the rare capacity to comfort an entire nation with a lullaby, while simultaneously owning the screen in terrifying, critically acclaimed cinematic roles. The next time you hear his voice narrating a stop-motion snowstorm or singing about a holly jolly Christmas, remember the imposing, dramatic presence that once forced Hollywood's leading men into his shadow.